I had a question yesterday from Trevor who said, is it too late to sow carrots? And strangely enough, today's video is about sowing carrots for overwintering. I'm going to be using quite a big container because I think that if you've got somewhere like a greenhouse, an opportunity to protect your plants and bring them on a little bit quicker, so you might as well use that as much as possible. And because of that, I don't like to leave the greenhouses with nothing in all winter. I'm not so bothered about putting things in ground, but if I can grow things in containers on raised benches away from bugs, all the better. But the answer to that question, Trevor, is yeah, you can still grow carrots now. Carrots are very cold hardy. They can stand frosts, and as with parsnips, if your carrots get hit by a frost, it turns that starch to sugar and makes those carrots or parsnips that much sweeter. So we're planning on doing some in this long container. We've had it in container garden, we've been growing peppers in it, but they've come to an end. But it's a very good sized trough for doing rows of carrots. I'll just show it you. This is the container I'm going to use. I'm going to put it down, it's just too long. That's the container I'm going to be using. And as you can see, it's very long. It's not got a bad bit of depth to it. It's not over deep, but we're not looking for huge carrots anyway. Not through winter. If you want to grow carrots quickly and just take small ones, Little Finger is a very good variety to choose. They only get to about 4 inches in length and they're, as stated on the packet, around the thickness of your finger. And they'd be a good choice because when it comes to containers like this, you can basically grow those shoulder to shoulder. So you can imagine just how many carrots you could harvest from here. Another one to choose would be Chantenay Royal because they're little stubby carrots. So once again, we don't need to be concerned about the depth of the container because we're not growing long carrots, and they grow into little stubby fat carrots, which we've grown before. Another one's Parisian, which we did try this year and it didn't work out the way we wanted them to, and they're supposed to be round carrots and can grow to its size of a ping pong ball, although ours didn't grow round. But we have still got some seeds left, so we will be trying some of those again just to see what happens on its third attempt. But another good one to put in containers, you could try the Nantes. They're an early carrot. They grow quite a bit longer, maybe 6 to 7 inch in a container, which is a good length carrot. And then of course you've got the one that we tried for the first time this year, which was Resistor Fly, and we've still got some of those outside in those raised beds. We've pulled a few out on previous videos and we've got some really good looking and good length carrots, no damage whatsoever to any of them, and a good 5 to 6 inches in length and also a good thickness to them. But the main thing, no damage from carrot root fly, and I've still got some of those seeds left as well. So there is lots of different types of carrots that you could try. If you want to grow them in containers under cover like I'm going to do, then they're going to germinate a little bit quicker. If you're growing them outside, you're going to have to direct sow them. Don't grow them in containers and then try and transplant them outside. It doesn't work. They've got to be directly sown into the ground. So what do you want to do in that situation is just make your drill, scatter your seeds and then cover them up with something to offer them a bit of protection. And the good thing about this time of year is we get a lot of rain. And when you're germinating carrot seeds, they don't like to dry out during that germination period because then it can cause them not to germinate at all. So if you've got consistent moisture in that compost, you're going to get an higher germination rate as well. So if you do want to grow carrots, Trevor, then I would say September is your last chance to sow some seeds for that. Whether you're doing them outside or whether you're going to do them in containers, you can do both. It's not a problem because they're very cold tolerant. So what I'm going to do, because this is such a big container as you've already seen, I'm going to reuse old compost. We're going to add some nutrients to it and then we're going to fill this up. Because that'd cost you a few quid to fill up with new compost. And I've saved loads and loads from containers that's been emptied. But what we need to do is sieve that compost now and make it as fine as we can. Because when you're growing your carrots, you need very fine, loose medium. So those carrots are guaranteed to grow long and straight. The only way you can guarantee that is to sieve it. And it doesn't take long. And mix your fertilisers in, but don't put lots in. If you give your carrots too much fertiliser, it causes them to fork, which we definitely don't want. So what I tend to do is add fish blood and bone to a container, mix it all in, make sure everything is nicely sieved, so I've got nice loose compost. Don't compact that compost down, just level it out. Broadcast your seeds. You'll probably have to thin them out later on if loads germinate. And that will be the only fertiliser I'll put in this container from start to finish. And we've done it before and it's worked perfectly fine. So today it's about starting as winter carrots. But first job is we'll get that old compost, I'll get it sieved and we'll fill this container up. For anybody that might be interested, that container I'm using is 5 foot long. It's 11 inches across top and it's 8 inches deep. Plenty of room for carrots in there. I've been and fetched a couple of tubs of this compost that we've saved from his containers and I'll get that sieved, but don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch me do that process. Well, that didn't take as long as you'd think. About 10 minutes and that container is completely filled now with nicely loose sieved compost. There we go. Got a nice bit of length to that container, as you can see. Like I said, 5 feet total length. So we're expecting a good amount of carrots out of that. And this compost is now nice and loose. All the big stones, bits of wood, anything like that have been taken out. So there's nothing to obstruct the growth of these carrots. And I've left a little gap between compost and top of this container because when we've done this we're going to cling wrap it so those seeds are going to germinate even faster. Before we do anything we're going to add fish blood and bone, and the way I do this is I basically add a layer almost covering the entire top. It's a good amount of nutrients going into here and it will be the only one it gets from beginning to end. So we'll just get that all mixed in and then we'll get it levelled out as well before we put those seeds on. You can see just how loose this compost is now. It's perfect for your carrots or your parsnips. Just going to level it out a little bit by hand, just so we know we've got an even bed all the way along this container. Then I'm just going to level that out with this piece of wood. I'm not pressing this down, I'm just making a nice even bed. That's all we want to do. Never compact the compost down when you're doing container carrots. Then I'm going to give this a good watering because this compost has been under shelter since we emptied those containers, so it's very dry. So we need to get a good amount of moisture in here to start those carrot seedlings off. Finally, we're ready to sow some seeds. Don't skimp on that process that you've just seen. It's very important that when you're growing carrots that you make sure everything is prepared properly, because you're only going to do that once and then these carrots will look after themselves right up to the point where you harvest them, and that's going to be the only time you're going to see what quality of carrots you've got. But doing all this to start off with guarantees you some really good ones, so it's definitely worth that little bit of extra time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this old school. I'm just going to use a cane and we're going to make a drill along the length of this container, and then we'll just broadcast seeds in. We know we're probably going to have to thin them out at some point, but again we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I've got a cane that's just right length for this container, so we'll make these drills and then we'll sow some seeds. So all I'm going to do is put this cane on about an inch or so away from edge of that container, because we need room for these carrots to expand a little as well. And then I'm just going to press it into that compost, make that little trench that we need for those seeds. But you don't want to make these too deep either, because carrot seeds are tiny. So hopefully you can see that we've got a nice little trench now in this container all the way across that length, and that's his first row of carrots. And then we'll do the same thing again, and I'm just going to leave about an inch or so in between. Try and keep it as straight as possible, but it's not 100% important. We're just giving ourselves a bit of a guide. And then we'll do the same thing again. We'll probably get about 4 rows in this container. So there you go, that's all his drills made. So I'm going to start off with some of these nanties. I think what I'm going to do is a mixture of different seeds. And although it's very difficult to see, it's just a case of rubbing between finger and thumb and moving along at the same time. And trying to drop them seeds in as sparingly as you can. We're just trying to leave a little bit of a gap, and it's definitely not an easy job to do. Nobody can do this perfect either. As long as we've got some, we're guaranteed that germination, because we don't want to be waiting forever because we only put a tiny amount of seeds in and then most of them didn't germinate. Besides, I like to use up all my seeds at end of year and get new ones. So after doing a full row, I'll do the same here. I am dropping quite a few more in here than I'm intending to, but as I said, it's quite difficult to gauge, and I'd rather get some than none. I'm also going to do 2 rows of those resistor fly, and we'll see which ones get on best. So exact same process. Rubbing finger and thumb while moving at the same time to try and space them out as evenly as possible. Finally, a very light covering using this colander. You don't have to do it like this if you don't want. I just want these little seedlings to break surface of that compost as soon as possible, and giving them a really light dusting of compost is going to help that process. And you can see it doesn't take long to cover those tiny seeds anyway. I'm just going to finish that off with a light watering. We know the compost beneath has got plenty of moisture in it, but we want to make sure the top has as well, because we're going to cover the entire container with cling film, and that's going to create that homemade propagator that we use all year, and that's just retaining moisture so these seeds don't dry out, and that's going to help with germination quite a lot. So let's get that cling film on and make sure we're retaining as much moisture as possible in this container. There we go. Another homemade propagator. Another job worth doing. And that is all set up. So that's a huge trough of winter carrots on the way now. We've already got another trough outside in that container garden, and they've already grown to about that height, so they're doing really well. And we've also got some little wash bowls as well with different varieties of carrots in. So we'll be harvesting those in stages as they come ready, and then this one should be ready by spring. If you want to see how these turn out, then please hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.